The campaign is also facing pressures from Capitol Hill. Senate Republicans say they have the votes to confirm Judge Barrett, but Democrats cast her nomination this week as a threat to President Obama's health care law and abortion rights. Barrett defended her views.
I'm not hostile to the ACA. I'm not hostile to any statute that you pass. Roe is not a super precedent because calls for its overruling have never ceased, but that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled.
Jane, you've been covering Supreme Court confirmation battles for decades. You've written a book about it. What is your read on how this unfolded this week? The Democrats holding back a bit on her personal story, her biography, focusing on health care. What's that all about?
Yeah, the Democrats showed unusual discipline for them. They're usually not terribly well coordinated, but they really they obviously had a campaign strategy, which was to make this about how the Health Care Act, Obamacare, was hanging in the balance because there is a big Supreme Court case that's going to be heard right after the election, and if they confirm Amy Coney Barrett, she'll be on the court in time for that. And so that they've tried to really tee up that one case. I mean, I think stepping back a little bit, that while you can see that the Republicans are likely to win this fight and get Barrett confirmed, they might lose the war a little bit on this politically. In some ways, they'll get the court the way they want it to be, but there's such a backlash that they have unleashed by just resorting to such raw power politics, and as the soundbite you played earlier had, the Democrats are talking about jamming this woman down their throats and having a separate set of rules for Democratic nominees and Republican nominees because of Merrick Garland having been stopped. And all of this is really radicalizing and motivating progressives who want to get payback if the Democrats get the Senate.
That's such a key point, the idea of payback, Democratic energy, because my sources tell me that the GOP solidarity on Barrett, it's real, but it's also a facade for growing anxiety. And we heard Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska this week. He kind of captured the mood among some Republicans.
The way he kisses dictators' butts. It isn't just that he fails to lead our allies, it's that the United States now regularly sells out our allies under his leadership. The way he treats women and spends like a drunken sailor. He mocks evangelicals behind closed doors.
Ayesha, is that revealing about where the GOP is in these final 18 days?
Well, what we've been, looking for to see is there going to be any type of distancing from Republicans to the White House. Now, obviously, you're not going to have a real distancing because Trump is the Republican Party. They're not going to be able to distance from them, and I think there's still a fear of the base. But you are seeing these things with Ben Sasse, who is now in a safe position. He's saying these things that have come out now. You saw Mitch McConnell saying that he hadn't been to the White House in a while because he felt like they weren't taking the coronavirus seriously. And, you saw Senator Tom Tillis talk about needing a check against a Biden presidency. So you're seeing these, so you need the Senate to stay Republican. So you are seeing these little kind of teases of what could be a bit of distancing from the president as people are reading the tea leaves and are clearly concerned.
Chuck, I spoke to Maryland Governor Larry Hogan this week. He said he won't vote for President Trump. He's going to do a write-in for the late Ronald Reagan. We've seen GOP cracks here or there. Is the Senator Sasse statement something that you're hearing from others in the upper echelon of the Republican Party?
Not yet. I expected a few more breaks, and we're not seeing it. And I say that because I thought, especially if Biden started to build a lead that we're looking at now, and I know there's some skepticism out there. We've been here before. In fact, in some ways, we've been here before, even with Republicans going, "Oh, I don't know if I can support him." I mean, at this point in time in 2016, they were dropping like flies because it was just after the Access Hollywood tape. But you're not. It is more of a trickle. It is more of a constituent teleconference call from Ben Sasse. It's not like he wanted to sound and say, "Hey, everybody, look at me," what I'm doing here, you get the sense that they're all testing this message. You know, it's almost like they're poking the electric fence and seeing if they'll get charged out of it. But ultimately, and I had a Republican strategist say this to me from one of the Senate races where you'd think maybe this is the place where you pull away from Trump. And this strategist said, look, you can't win with them and you can't win without them. And that's where some of these Republican senators are stuck in.
Jane, you've written about Majority Leader McConnell. He wants to overhaul the federal judiciary. He wants these justices on the Supreme Court. Where is he at this moment as the majority is at risk, but he looks like he's going to have a new justice on the court that he helped shepherd and get there?
Well, people have told me when I was reporting on McConnell that his North Star, the thing that he's always wanted the most, is to stay majority leader. And the interesting thing is he may not be able to do that in part because he's thrown his lot in so much and so closely with Trump. There's no daylight between them. And as far back as March, really, you could see that as Trump began to sort of bungle a lot of the coronavirus response, it became more and more of a risk for McConnell, who was having to carry the weight of Trump's not responding more effectively to this terrible pandemic. So the fact that he enabled Trump and that they had this partnership in a way has come back to bite him to some extent.